what it is, what it do, cyber world. It's your girl, the one and only Ash Brown, and this is the ashsaidit Show. Over 1,900 episodes since 2014, 500,000 streams all around the globe, and all that is on account of you guys. So thank you so much for all of your love and support. Today, we are joined by a superstar, all right? This wonderful being, all right? She is the executive director of the Adoption Consultancy. She is a Today Show contributor and host of Adopting, the podcast, the wonderful Nicole Witt. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole. So, Nicole, what part of the country are you at today?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Ooh, you're in Tampa. You're getting some nice, sun rays today. Okay.
Yes, it's very hot here. You're in the Atlanta area, is that correct?
I am, and it was 99 today, so we're around that time.
Yeah, I lived there. I lived there for about 5 years or so, and then it was a little too far away from the water for me,
yes.
So we kept on going south.
I love it. All right, so Nicole, we're going to get into some stuff today because it is still June, all right, and that is, LGBTQ plus month. This is Pride Month, and you have a very interesting story to share with us about how this all came about for you. How did things start?
Yeah, so actually when I lived in Atlanta, my husband and I kind of went through the whole infertility journey ourselves. And, at the time that we were going through it, I really didn't give adoption probably the look it deserved, right? Because I believed so many of the myths and scary stories and stuff out there about it. But I did start getting involved in a lot of volunteer work related to the infertility space and so on. And from all of that, I learned so much about adoption, and I was like, wow, this is really a great option, that people need to know about. And they need to know that a lot of those myths and scary stories are not really true. And then as I got kind of more and more into the space, I've luckily over the years worked with many, fabulous agencies and attorneys and so on, kind of the same mindset as I am, that everybody should have the opportunity to build their family. Yes. But when I first started, there were a lot of agencies that had a lot of restrictions about who they would and wouldn't work with. So it was really important to me from the beginning, to work with all kinds of families, as long as, of course, they're legally allowed to adopt, which is something that has changed over the years, and to find partners, that kind of have that same mindset. So that's kind of, the path that I went down.
Yeah. So what are some of the unique challenges that you saw that a lot of LGBTQ plus families were facing in the adoption process?
Well, so I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. So when I started, there were some states like Florida, where I am, that didn't allow LGBTQ families to adopt. Then kind of like I mentioned, there were more agencies than there are now that had restrictions about that. But even if they were able to overcome those hurdles, with private adoption in the U.S., it's the expectant mom who selects the adoptive parents. And 20 years ago, there actually weren't that many expectant moms who were willing to accept non-traditional families. That has changed very much over the years, and it continues to evolve, which is interesting. So when expectant moms started to become more open to that, it was more they were accepting of female same-sex couples, but not male same-sex couples. And then that has evolved over the years, where actually more and more expectant moms are open to male same-sex couples, but not as much to female same-sex couples. So it's kind of shifted a little bit. But generally speaking, the expectant moms are just usually so much more open about which families they'll look at and consider and so on, than they were in the past. So a lot more opportunities have opened up for families.
Yes, definitely. So what do you feel is the role of cultural competency and sensitivity in the adoption process?
Well, I think it's really important to work with agencies that have that. And, again, all the places in my network do. But, there are some places that, maybe they say that they're open to all families, but the wording on their paperwork maybe indicates otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's things like that. So just making sure that the places that you work with are kind of putting their money where their mouth is. And yes, sometimes when policies change, it takes a little while for, some of the documentation and things like that to catch up. But just in terms of, the language people use, the documentation that they use, being aware of some of the challenges, speaking with the expectant moms and the birth moms and the hopeful adoptive parents, in the right way, understanding their particular questions and concerns and how they might look at the process differently than more traditional families would, I think is just really important.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how important is it for prospective, parents to talk to these agencies and legal experts and to see where their standing is?
It's really important. So, now, again, when I started, there were some states that didn't allow gay families to adopt it. Pretty much all states do now, but there are still some differences between, if you're adopting as a married couple versus as an unmarried couple. And then in this latter case, do you also want to do a second parent adoption to keep things as legally safe as possible? Even some married gay couples are doing second parent adoptions after they adopt as a married couple, just in case. These days people are concerned about what might happen with some of the gay marriage rulings, and they want to make sure that doesn't take away their parental rights, right? So they want to have kind of two layers of protection with that. So speaking to legal experts who are really in the know about how not only the current laws, but possible changes in those laws might affect your family, is really important to just have everything as safe and protected as possible.
Now, I feel like I'm reading this right now. They said that you've guided over 1,000 families through the adoption journey. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Kudos to you, Nicole.
Yeah, it's been very rewarding, that's for sure.
Definitely. What can you say about what family sticks out to you when you think about those thousands of families? Is there one or two or a couple of families that just kind of stick out to you and you remember that time period?
Oh gosh, there are definitely some families that really stick out. It's hard to kind of nail down maybe one or two, but I think the families that stick out the most, I think, are the ones that had the most difficult journey getting to the point of adoption. And then, being able to see, and obviously this doesn't happen with everybody, but being able to see them, grow their family very quickly and very successfully, through adoption. I mean, I've had families who have tried, surrogacy and other methods unsuccessfully for years and invested so much money, and then they've been able to adopt within, 2 months or something like that. And again, that's not the norm. That's the exception. That's why it sticks out. But to see that, has just been so satisfying.
Yeah. And what advice could you offer to a family that maybe has been struggling through the process and they are part of the LGBTQ plus community?
There's a lot of advice I would give, as we've already touched on, making sure that you are working with adoption professionals who not only are accepting of that, but are advocates for it and are reaching out to try to work with everyone in the space who's also of the same mindset to provide as many opportunities for your family as possible. And kind of along those lines, because still, although more and more expectant moms are open to different types of families, I would still say most, maybe not the vast majority, but most expectant moms are still looking for traditional couples. So you really want to cast your net as wide as you can. And that's part of the approach that we take. We get our clients activated with several different agencies, which is something a lot of people don't think about. They think, you just sign up with one adoption agency and you wait, right? You don't have to do that. Like, you can sign up with several of them to really increase your opportunities. And that's even more important for families who might have a harder time getting selected, than more traditional families might.
Absolutely. And is that a lot of the work that you do at the Adoption Consultancy?
Yeah, so that's a big part of it, or a part of it, is that we create customized plans for each of our clients with those agencies and attorneys and other adoption professionals who we really think are going to best be able to help them as quickly and effectively and safely and legally as possible.
Gotcha. And yes, while you are currently on my podcast, I want to talk about the Adopting, the podcast. I want to talk about your show.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't catch your question.
No, you're good. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how that started and what's going on with it.
Yeah, so actually it's on adoption.com or adopting.com, excuse me, and they had reached out to me. They have several different adoption podcasts, and they all have a slightly different target or focus, if you will, and they were looking for somebody to really focus a podcast for people who are maybe just thinking about adoption or sort of very early on. And it's really more about like some of the logistics and some of the things to like keep in mind and the decisions that need to be made up front, or different topics that should be considered up front. So that's what Adopting the podcast focuses on. Adopting.com also has other ones for people later in the process, after they've adopted, ongoing relationships with birth parents. They have a podcast from the birth mom point of view. So it's a really great place where you can get a bunch of different perspectives, and all the different podcasts kind of complement each other.
That is really awesome. And last but certainly not least, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? We've got thousands of listeners all across the globe. Someone listening right now may be like, oh my gosh, I need to get in contact with Nicole. What do they need to do?
Yeah, so they can go to adopting.com and find Adopting the podcast there and contact me that way. Or they can go directly to my website, which is theadoptionconsultancy.com.
Sounds like a plan. Nicole, thank you so much for coming through today. We certainly appreciate
Thanks
you.
so much, Ash. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for your love and support. It just keeps me going, all right? And keep in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face, you tell them, don't believe me. Just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for, the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.